Which is Loaves? Miss Martha Meacham, the proprietor of the little bakery on the corner, the one with the 3 steps and the tinkling bell, was a woman of a certain age, 40 years old, yet far from resigned to spinsterhood. Her bank account boasted a tidy $2,000, and she possessed 2 false teeth and a heart that readily sympathized with the misfortunes of others. Many women had found husbands with far less to offer. 2 or 3 times a week, a particular customer would enter her shop, arousing her interest. He was a middle-aged man, sporting spectacles and a carefully trimmed brown beard. He spoke English with a distinct German accent. His clothes were worn, patched, and wrinkled, a testament to a life of struggle. But he carried himself with neatness and remarkable courtesy. He always purchased 2 loaves of stale bread. Fresh bread was 5 cents a loaf. Stale ones were 2 for 5. He never asked for anything else. One day, Miss Martha noticed a red and brown stain on his fingers, a telltale sign of an artist's palette. She was convinced then that he was an artist, and a poor one at that. She imagined him living in a drafty attic, painting pictures, subsisting on stale bread, and dreaming of the delicious pastries in her bakery. Often, as she savored her hearty meals of chops, rolls, jam, and tea, Miss Martha would sigh, wishing the gentle artist could share her bounty instead of eating his dry crusts in that cold, lonely garret. Her heart, as you've heard, was a compassionate one. To confirm her theory about his profession, she brought down a painting from her room, a Venetian scene she'd purchased at an auction, and placed it behind the counter. It depicted a magnificent marble palazzo, or so the inscription claimed, set against a backdrop of gondolas, clouds, sky, and a generous dose of chiaroscuro. No artist could fail to notice it. 2 days later, a customer entered. 2 loaves of stale bread, if you please. You have here a fine picture, madame, he remarked as she wrapped the bread. Yes? Miss Martha responded, relishing her own cleverness. I do so admire art, and… She paused, realizing it was too early to reveal her hand. And paintings, she substituted. You think it's a good picture? The balance, the customer said, is not in good drawing. The perspective of it is not true. Good morning, madame. He took his bread, bowed, and hurried out. Yes, he must be an artist. Miss Martha retrieved the painting and returned it to her room. How gentle and kind his eyes shone behind his spectacles. What a broad brow he had. To be able to judge perspective at a glance, and to live on stale bread. But genius often struggles before being recognized. What a thing it would be for art and perspective if this genius were backed by $2,000 in the bank, a bakery, and a compassionate heart to… But these were daydreams, Miss Martha. Now, when he came in, he would often chat for a while across the glass countertop. He seemed to crave Miss Martha's cheerful words, seeking solace in her warmth. He continued to buy stale bread, never a cake, never a pie, never one of her delectable Sally Lunns. She noticed he was getting thinner, his spirit waning. Her heart ached to add something good to his meager purchase, but her courage failed. She didn't dare offend him, for she knew the pride of artists. Miss Martha began wearing her blue-dotted silk waist behind the counter, a subtle signal of her growing affection. In the back room, she concocted a mysterious concoction of quince seeds and borax, a remedy many women use to improve their complexions. One day, the customer arrived, as usual, laid his nickel on the counter, and ordered his stale loaves. As Miss Martha reached for them, a fire engine roared past, its sirens blaring. The customer hurried to the door to watch, giving Miss Martha her chance. On the bottom shelf behind the counter, she noticed a pound of fresh butter, delivered just moments before. Seizing her opportunity, Miss Martha used a bread knife to make a deep cut in each of the stale loaves, then generously slathered butter inside. before pressing the loaves back into shape. The customer returned, and as she handed him his bread, they engaged in a particularly pleasant conversation. When he left, Miss Martha smiled to herself, her heart fluttering with a mixture of excitement and apprehension. Had she been too bold, would he be offended? But surely not. There was no language of edibles. Butter was no emblem of unmaidenly forwardness. For a long time that day, her mind lingered on the scenario, picturing his discovery of her small deception. He would lay down his brushes and palette. His easel would stand beside the picture he was working on, a testament to his mastery of perspective. He would prepare his simple lunch of dry bread and water. He would slice into a loaf. Ah! Miss Martha blushed. Would he think of the hand that had placed the butter there as he ate? Would he? The front doorbell clanged loudly, someone entering the bakery with a flourish. Miss Martha hurried to the front. 2 men stood there. One was a young man with a pipe, a stranger to her. The other was her artist. His face was flushed, his hat perched rakishly on the back of his head, his hair disheveled. He clenched his fists and shook them fiercely at Miss Martha. "Dummkopf!" he roared, his voice booming. Then he shouted, "Tausendonfer!" or something like it in German, his anger bordering on rage. The young man tried to pull him away. "I will not go," he said, his voice thick with fury, "else I shall told her." He turned the counter into a makeshift drum. "You have spoilt me!" he screamed, his blue eyes blazing behind his spectacles. "I will tell you, you was von medding some old cat." Miss Martha leaned against the shelves, placing one hand on her blue-dotted silk waist, her face pale with shock. The young man grabbed the other man by the collar. "Come on," he said. "You've said enough." He dragged the furious artist out the door, onto the sidewalk, and then came back inside. "You should probably know, ma'am," he said, "what all the fuss is about. That's Blumberger. He's an architectural draftsman. I work in the same office with him. He's been working hard for 3 months on a plan for a new city hall, a prize competition. He finished inking the lines yesterday. You know, draftsmen always sketch their designs in pencil first. When they're done, they rub out the pencil lines with handfuls of stale breadcrumbs. It's better than an eraser. Blumberger's been buying bread here. Well, today? Well, you know, ma'am, that butter isn't... Well, Blumberger's plan isn't good for anything now, except to cut up into railroad sandwiches. Miss Martha retreated to the back room. She removed her blue-dotted silk waist and put on the old brown serge she usually wore. Then she poured the quince seed and borax mixture out the window into the ash can, her heart heavy with the weight of her misplaced affection. The end. If you liked the story, hit that like button and subscribe for more videos. Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. Was there anything that surprised you? Who's your favorite character in the story? I can't wait to hear your thoughts.